going to stop the share in a minute. Let's see if everybody's on their call here. Hold on one second. Okay. All right. We are, let's see, Dr. George, we're back. And stop the share, and boom. Let's hit the record button on this.
Recording in progress.
All right, we are live. Dr. George, welcome aboard. I want to have to get the camera and get everybody in screen here. Hang in there. There we are. This is live, that's for sure. I did the best again to be prepared, and I got a little more prepared, Dr. George. So everyone at home is going to see the infographic finally. And let's see. My gosh, that's YouTube. There it is. There it is. And you saw it, George. I wrote at the top. Intention is information and has power to change materials and living systems. So it's like that concept of what we focus on grows. But as you know, we're seeing the infographic, and it's this work by Dr. William Tiller. Though I'm gonna show a couple things right now, George. I'm gonna show the KST manual right here to the audio. Let's see if I get my camera going. There it is. KST manual. And then this Dr. Walter Russell, I started studying his materials. This is old stuff from 1880s, 1890s, but the basic concepts of energy and movement and how life flows together from information, the quantum realm to the physical body. And then our physical reality, and then back and forth, and so in the world of physical healthcare, we'll call it that first. I'll start with that. In the world of physical healthcare, I keep showing that image.
Okay.
Video. I gotta get my buttons right, but. In this physical health care, we know that moving body parts and stretching muscles and doing things helps. Though, is there a better way? Is there a better way to build a mousetrap? And the answer is yes. And so that's an analogy to tell a story about the physical health care and what, the concept of... what was a really powerful term for a while was evidence-based medicine. And then I heard a conversation put on a couple of years ago stating well, what's the evidence that you accept? All right, so now it's a conversation of evidence and what kind of evidence and the quality of the evidence, how the evidence was gathered, all that matters. And so people at the highest degrees, this guy, Dr. William Tiller, I hate pressing that button. I gotta fix that real quick. But Dr. William Tiller, structure, chemistry, electromagnetic fields, subtle energy fields, intention, and then information all flow in this system of up and down and down and up. And in our world, our profession, we have a statement. We call it the safety pin cycle, right? We have the phrase above, down, inside, out. And I know there's a very common phrase that no matter what the audience is, somebody has heard this in the audience: as above, so below; as within, so without. I actually have a very influential. I can't grab it; it's stuck in there. Though there's a very influential teacher that I had, and he goes on to say, as above, so below; as within, so without; as I give, so I receive; as I choose, so I create; as I ask, so I remember. That one. That was given to me. Oh, here's the date. December 21st, 2018. I've been contemplating those. And it's always in my clinic. It's always in my office where I can see it all the time. And I contemplate that statement frequently. Frequently, it comes in as I ask. So, Ted Koren, KST, and many great. It's the doctors, it's the teachers, it's the healers' gift. Asking good questions.
Yeah. Better questions.
And so we had some new members recently, and I was talking with Dr. George about, we've been jumping from what we believe is A to B to C to D, yet forgetting all the years of foundational physiology, structure, muscle, bone, ligament, tendon. The question I pose to the audience is, what is the purpose of a bone? What's the purpose of a muscle? What's the purpose of a ligament? What's the purpose of a tendon? What's the purpose of a disc? And those questions are important because that's like the framework of our house. That's the axle and the iron frame of the car. And if those things are bent, if those things aren't plumb and perfect and precision, well, there's a rub. There's a lean, there's a wobble, there's a noise.
My analogy is people come into the body shop or office.
Yeah.
Hey, I got this scratch, I need you to buff it out and paint it.
Right.
And I'm going to examine them and go, well, actually, your frame is bent.
Your frame is bad. Oh, goodness gracious, your frame is all jacked up. My goodness, I got logged out. Let's log in right there. Huh. Phone updates and getting logged out of your apps. Love that. So, Dr. George, it is 1:11.
Of course it is.
And let's shift the story to talking about what's the purpose of a bone. And then what we do in Synergy Solutions is we build the bridge, and the past we've been doing this since around 2018, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
It was like June or July. I'm going to get the exact date. I have that exact first recording, of course. Though it's the practical application of this knowledge, wherever I'm pointing, is what we do here in Synergy Solutions, applying it in a remote way. And part of this, as I saw, because there were people that I worked with that traveled, and it became part of the work that was presented in the advanced community in KST. And I found it also in the Reiki community. I found it also in the Chinese medicine community in different ways. And the concepts of the teachings of different Native American cultures in South America, and some of the Westerners that went and lived and studied the shamans and the kahuna of Hawaii and the Alaskan, and the Mongol, the Russian different communities and their cultures of beliefs. And there's this common theme of what we call quantum, that non-physical weirdness, all that goodness. So there's that bridge that we're building between the subtle energies of life. And if you remember physics class, we have the four forces, the primary four forces. What are they, Dr. George? If you remember I remember gravity.
Gravity, strong force, weak force. I don't remember that part.
And I believe it's either electromagnetism.
It's got to be electromagnetic, because that's a big one.
Right. So we have gravity, electromagnetic. We are quite familiar with that. But the strong forces and the weak forces, to me, that's the catch-all. We don't know what to call it. Our technology hasn't built up. Or now we have technology to define that, and that's called quantum, it's called scalar. And I believe there's other things that have other names. That's where I'm going to go with that. I want to try to share my screen to everybody at the audience. So part of my clicking around, we're going to change this view, and I'm going to try to pull up a website for everybody. And while I do that, it's hard to do at the same time, excuse me, but my gosh, this is really cool. So maybe, I impair that part of the ability of the technology to do that for me. So let's see if I can do this. And add a screen grab real quick. And so what I'm going to do is show Alex Gray, the artist Alex Gray. And he shows human anatomy, but he also shows these quantum images that are basically mathematics in the human body. George, if you could talk about geometry, human body, and all that for a minute while we're in a dark screen.
Geometry in the human body. Well, I would say that the body is pretty cleverly designed. When we're talking about the backbone, for instance, each of the vertebrae, the size of the vertebrae from one to the next is the same ratio, the same relationship as musical notes on a chromatic scale. So mathematically, there's proper balance and proportion between bones. You know, nature has its preferences. Some things are harmonic and some things are not. So we could apply this to all the structures of the body. In fact, when I was in school, in chiropractic school, I recognized that you could describe or mimic every body part with your hands. So you can make a vertebra, you can make axis vertebra, you can have bones sticking. Nature uses the same principles to design everything.
Yeah.
Which means that everything is supposed to be harmonious, which means it's all vibrating at certain mathematical intervals, which is what I'm looking for. But standard.
Yeah, agreed. So the concepts, I was talking in a class the other day, the concepts of the pi and phi. Okay. So pi is what, 3.14?
Okay, yeah.
Then we have phi is 1.618, I believe.
Okay.
And there's let's just pull it up. Let's pull it up real quick. George, you can see the screen, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, look at that.
Okay. So I'm going to pull up pi in mathematics. Oh, I want phi. PHI. The golden ratio. 1.618.
Golden ratio.
All right, so I've never been to this website before, so I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to go with, because you can see I can see an image that I know is the right image. So let's take a quick look at it. Phi is Neophytes. All right. 1.618033988749895 and goes on. Most often pronounced phi like fly is simply an irrational number like pi, 3.1416, that should be 15, rounded up, but one with many unusual mathematical properties. Unlike pi, which is a transcendental number, phi is the solution to a quadratic equation. Now we're getting into these geometry conversations, and maybe I lost some people in there, and people are going boom, my brain. What did you say, quadratic equation? So I want to get out of the math and just look at the images for a minute. This person, whoever this is, has some jewelry, and you can see the beginning, and it goes around in this ratio, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So perhaps there's a better art. Let's go back here. Let's go with images. Here. All right, that's that. Let's do phi in nature. Here we are.
Yeah.
We can zoom in a little. There we are, like that.
Yeah.
All right, so somebody made an equation to, my goodness, the Mona Lisa. But here we have it in seashells.
Yep.
I'm not sure what this is, what flower or plant this is, but I know you find it in nature. So look at it in storms. This person has it in storms right here. I like this image. Now, is this accurate 100%? It's pretty, but I like the visual representation. We see it. Look at this little, I can zoom even more on that.
Fiddlehead.
So nonetheless, I like this image down the bottom right corner. The seashell shape, the DNA shape, the storm shape. This one. Is that? It's probably like AI art or something.
Spiral Galaxy too.
Right, Spiral Galaxy. So these shapes are. How about phi in the human body? Let's check that out real quick. Right, oh my gosh, what's the name of that? Vitruvian Man, right? Yeah. So the arm positions, leg positions make the circle, and there's a square, and there's triangles that can be found. And so these shapes and geometry, these ratios, the sayings of humanity, a thumb, what's the, there's different stories about what the thumb represents, or a hand, 14, a hand for horses.
Right, yeah.
The horses, let me get back to that screen here. Stop the share. Come back here. So yeah, they measure horses by hands, right? I believe in sailing there was like a length of rope that you would pull to then see how deep, or you would measure by the length of your arm and see how deep the water was. Averages, right?
I need power. I'll be right back.
Yeah, buddy. So with that being said, everybody, we're gonna take a quick look at.
Okay.
This is a. See if I can control for a second.
Hello and welcome.
Yeah, this is what I'm showing you right now is one of the first. It is the first video ever created with some of these newer advanced technologies. This was like 2017, 16, yeah, probably 16, and I'm really excited to do this. So, nonetheless,
My name is Dr. Kevin Jarina, and welcome.
It's right
I'm
here.
glad you're here. I'm bringing this to you from Awakening Awareness
and this is
Healing.
when I first
Perhaps
created
awareness,
the concept for
awakening
my
and
business.
healing.
Awareness, Awakening, and Healing, Harmonious
We're looking at a
Healings.
Mandelbrot set.
And I go
We're
on
describing
to,
your infinite being today.
and it's called the Infinite Being. And Dr. George, I want to show you this real quick. There it is. This is the Mandelbrot. And I wrote about this in my book. The Mandelbrot is mathematics in nature, and the guy who Dr. Mandelbrot entered the mathematical formula for infinity into the computer, and this is what he got. Essentially, there was a more basic version of this. And he found these images, and the more you zoomed in, the more this image, which is that black shape they call the beetle, and it just goes on and on and on. And this is the nature of the conversation of dimensions and human consciousness, as well as I had a lot of television time when I was young, and there's a scene in The Simpsons where they zoom out or zoom in, I forget which way it went, and they just zoom in, and then it was Homer's head again, and then it started at Homer's head, it went to Homer's head. It was this huge funny conundrum. Yet this is what this doctor represented and found in mathematics in like the 70s or 60s when computers were coming out. And so I fast forward a bit to find some images, but I just go through this presentation of these concepts in the computer world, generated world, and then in how it translates to the human toroidal field, which is the Heart Math Institute. And then we connected to some of the training in chiropractic and the concepts of chiropractic, the self-healing principle. You know, what happens when you cut yourself versus cutting a dead piece of meat? You know, you heal, meat doesn't. And so the self-regulating, the heart delivered to kidneys, all the parts. George, you know the story. It's automatic. It runs this beautiful network of all these master organs that, you know, our world of Western medicine has divided each organ into its own unique science and study, and there's brilliant minds working on them. But let's know that it all works together. It all comes together. And there's an automated regulation system of that. And yet we can influence that by our own decisions, our own choices. And then most importantly, also, I say secondly importantly, is the environment we choose to be in and connect to. And I'm learning there's a greater responsibility for the vibe I decide to create and be in. You know, like the same old restaurants just aren't doing it for me anymore. The same music isn't doing it for me anymore. The same movies aren't doing it for me anymore. And so our brain and our nervous system, the purpose of it is to control and coordinate the function, to regulate, to it's this whole grand network, like a gigantic computer network. You know, the computer network, the LAN system, is, I would have to agree, my opinion is modeled after the human nervous system. So what does the nervous system, is there anything it can't regulate and coordinate and at least communicate? No. It's always there. And so when there's interference, we call that subluxation. And when you break down that word, it's really nice and fun to talk about sub, lux, at, ion. And that conversation is delightful. So when we reharmonize our focused intent to reharmonize expression, fire, so chiropractors deliver, then we help the body do what it does. We just give it leverage. We help it process. We help it align, and that's what we do. We identify the causes internally and externally. That's what I've turned. That's what in all my, Dr. George, has been all my desire and all this to study like a hound on a bone, like these things that affect us and affect me. I found better and better patterns to release, and that clinically relevant, evidence-based thing that people want. Though, did you know that data existed? That's the conversation I have with most people now is, oh, I didn't know it existed. Well, here you go. It's great. And the body automatically responds. It's so great, George. It's as if once you get past the data and the details and the complexity of the human body, it's kind of like it's super simple. Super simple.
Simplicity on the other side of complexity. But without having an appreciation of the complexity, simplicity is not fully informed. And so the results are diminished, I think.
Yeah. So, they're seeing the slideshow. Essentially, this is a talk I gave, and I'm just letting it run right now. It kind of just basically goes with the basic principles that, the chiropractor, and there's different kinds of chiropractic, there's different ways of delivering it. So wherever you are, if you've been to one, go to another one if you don't like it. Or just talk to your doctor that, is there a different way? Because oftentimes they have all these different techniques that they're not used to delivering. And so we help people feel better, yes. We help people prevent problems, yes. Though I love the concept of the effect of the work I do, delivering and reversing the effects of the aging process. Let me go back a little bit, and basically, it's the concept of working with people's minds and their pictures of what life can be. Get to repaint that picture of what life is. And so, like a Bob Ross painting, Dr. George.
Yeah.
We start with the blue sky and the green grass.
And happy clouds.
Okay, next level. Happy clouds. Let's go. Put some trees in there. Some puffy ones. Some nice pink ones. Some blue ones. Some green ones. However, make it lovely. Put a lake in there. Put a nice bicycle trail, Dr. George.
That's right.
downhill and off and on the road.
On the road and off road.
I love downhill mountain biking, Dr. George. I gotta tell you.
You do? Oh boy.
Yeah. So here,
You like rugby too, so.
I do like rugby. I like it. I like the intensity, apparently. But what I'm showing here is the yin yang, and you see some of the geometrical shapes in the yin yang. And so this is math in art form, in physical form. And we've all seen these images, different shapes. This is represented in the human zygote, sperm meets egg, the conversation of fetal development. And these are different forms and pictures of energy centers in and around the body that are from some various techniques that go beyond the concept of 7 chakras. There's the concepts of 12 and 13 system and 22. Let's go back one little step. There it is. There, that one. Some gentleman I found online did this great overlay of essentially a zoomed in point of view of what's called the seed of life, but it's like a couple layers on top of layers on top of layers. And let's see if I can zoom in a little more for you. There's the neck and upper back, and you can see, maybe you can, maybe you can't see. Where are we with that picture?
A little fuzzy, but you can kind of get the gist of it.
Yes, this is a screenshot, of somebody that I really love, and it's hard, I'm zooming in really, really far here.
Though I think there's a temptation to see all this mathematical repetition throughout nature to fall into the trap of seeing it as simply a machine.
Well, that's also the trap, because nature is moving, growing, adapting, resilient. So this is the problem with the cadaver lab. Like, we saw the bone, we see the bones that are dried out and dead.
Right.
So we're living systems. Go ahead, George.
Well, and also, it is mathematical, and it appears to be a machine. But how did it get to be that way? What's the intelligence behind it? What's the author of this poem that we're looking at?
Right.
And I think that's the thing that medicine left out of the picture. And I think that the ancient the Reiki people and the shaman and the spiritual people that talked to plants and listened and said eat me, and they did. Like that got lost when we started to use our intellect to measure everything and quantify everything. But I think that's okay to do. But that is subservient to the quality of the vibrations that we can perceive. And so we as doctors have transcended the physical style adjustment and recognize that there's a lot to that physicality that can be appreciated through other senses. And so when we look at somebody and go, oh yeah, you hurt your shoulder 35 years ago on a Tuesday when the sun was shining. Like, how do you know that? Well, because we learned to read nature through a different lens, a different language.
Well, that's what studying the greats in the nature of the history of the human body, philosophy, mechanics. There's multiple areas of study that are wired into understanding what the human body is: electricity, magnetics, chemistry, biology. And even to how a human body applies to a society. Our founding fathers were tapped into some deep and heavy, and understood that our nature could be denatured. If we were in tune, if we were locked on to the Creator, let's say, then the government's going to work. People will all be happy and prosperous, and there's enough for everybody. And when the physical body becomes the predominant thing and not its creator, when we use our mind to control the world, then we start to get greedy and we start to get out of balance, and we see the world we see today based on one fundamental flaw. We forgot to let nature rule us, and it progressively caused our bodies to become out of tune. And so part of our mission as chiropractors, I think, is to help the individual become whole again,
so that society can start moving towards wholeness again. And it's no smaller than that.
Well, the concept is when one thing affects one individual, that radiates out and affects other people.
It radiates out because we're all connected in ways that we're beginning to appreciate.
Yeah.
And as is the entirety of the universe, in all its dimensions, seen and unseen, and the illusion of time, and all. I mean, it gets big and crazy fast, but, bringing it back into the room, when you're out of sorts, everybody is.
Well, that is the truth, because consider the impact of one's own statements and one's own actions on others when you're upset, or when you're in love, when you are in joy, when you're in fun mode, when you're in serious mode. Think of the impact that has on other people around you. And then we also know if you live on the Northeast, or now it's coming out through more and more in the country, is if you go to a Wawa, people open the door. It's a culture there. If you go somewhere and people are smiling, you walk away with a smile. And then there's also the nonverbal vibe. And that's what I'm really getting into. There's a whole language that is there. There's principles of science that have been there for over 150 years that are being more and more understood, though it's the science of light. And it's the science of love. It's the science of intentionality. And when I say love, because it comes with a tone that's measurable, Professor Emoto in Japan clearly demonstrated what each many words, what a frozen ice water molecules that have spent time in an intention, a focused intention experiment, they freeze the water, put it under the microscope, and they see the images of the formation of the ice, just like a snowflake. They're the ones, of course, that are of the negative variety of things, have these shattered glass appearances, and very something quite nasty. And of course, on this side of the spectrum, there's all this wonderful beauty and perfection in the architecture.
And the word love on a glass of water will create similar crystalline shapes in any language.
Yeah.
The word love in any language will get similar shapes. How freaking smart is nature?
Yeah. And so, one of the things that has always been a part of my story as someone on the journey of getting their body and their mind right from young injuries and just being overwhelmed all the time, and not all the time, but a toll was taken and added up. And I've recognized the extreme importance to take care of my body, because my mind was not in happy places, and that affected people around me. And though in chiropractic, the concepts of give, love, serve. Give, love, serve. And what I recognized in myself and in the profession is there's as much give, love, serve to yourself as it is out to the world. And there's a balance for all the doctors, and wherever they find themselves, whatever their vision of a practice, of a clinic, of a service is, it can grow and adapt and change, because nature grows, adapts, and changes. I'm looking for an old image on my Instagram page, Dr. George. Let's see if people can see that. There it is. That's my Instagram page. I'm way back now, and I'm going to see if I can get Dr. George to take a look at it. And then Dr. George, Vesna is here. Vesna, if you want to talk, give a wave. I'm glad you joined us. She is here.
I am plugged in, but I'm on 1% power, so if I cut out, that's what it is.
Well, if you cut out, it's time to do the remote healing.
Right.
So that'll be our final indicator, because we're a little over time now. However, I am wanting to go more and spend a little more time going through the basic principles. So I'm looking for give, love, serve. But nonetheless, we can look at Synergy Solutions right here on the main channel. And there's a bunch of different images, stories, some experiences that are recorded people can check out and learn more about what we've been doing, what's been going on. and participate. We had some great testimonials. I'll be releasing some testimonials about this soon enough. More of them, I should say, because I haven't done any of that in a while for this concept, and where I figured some things out. The members area is now open and accessible, and people are able to learn some of these things in a program called Becoming Your Own Healer. And a couple sets of workshops and tools and techniques I've been gathering. So that's fun, Dr. George. I got a lot of fun with that. So that being said, let's shift the story. If people are interested to join in, connect, learn more about that, there's a website, there's the infographic. It's all about natural, it's all about holistic, it's all about tuning yourself. So the purpose of a bone, let's answer that question, George. When the structure's balanced, the energy can flow better, right? That's a simple way of putting it.
And the skeleton as a whole has one of its major responsibilities is to tune the nervous system. The neuroskeleton, D.D. called it. So if the bones are aligned properly, the nerves are stretched to the right tension, so the signals flow appropriately, and harmony in the whole body can ensue. See?
Well, there you go. Say that again, Dr. George.
Neuroskeleton.
So the osteoneuro system. Neuroosteopathy. I'm just having fun with the idea, but the skeletal nervous system, because what's the concept? It's tensegrity?
Tensegrity is what keeps the skeleton itself balanced, but the nerves are influenced by that because the central nervous system is surrounded by the meningeal system, which the cerebrospinal fluid bathes the central nervous system. But it's tethered to the skull, the upper neck, and the pelvis. So if the head and the tail aren't in proper proximity, then, and to a certain extent, the extremities, because we weave fascia into the picture, and the meninges are kind of a highly sophisticated, specialized type of fascia. So yeah, I mean, if the neck of the guitar is warped, you can't get the strings in tune, and you're not making music anymore.
Well, there you go.
The analogy applies to our chord as well.
That's right. That's one of the best analogies, the guitar analogy, because that is exactly what that is. Yeah. So when your spine, your body's out of tune, you are out of tune. That's the story here. So when chiropractors do their work, they help people become more in tune. And for those that get limited results, there's other layers, other levels that may be being addressed that the chiropractor either doesn't specialize in, or you need to ask some questions so they can focus in a better way. And you can join in here, get some of those quantum realms handled, and if you need help in your local area, we can help point you to the right direction. My God, it's just getting people the right tools, techniques, and simple ways, regardless of where you are, regardless of the time. And that's what we're about to do right now. We're going to shift the story to the private member zone, and we're going to do that work. But if you are saying yes, you want to connect, you want to align your being and body, well, say yes right now, and we'll invite you to connect. And energetically, you will be connecting. And I look forward to seeing you on that side, so to speak. And we're going to be delivering a very specific, directed impulse to stimulate the system to optimize your system. And in that way, we're doing a service and a gift to the world. If you feel so compelled to be in on the inner story and learn some of the materials and have access to the members area, we do this for essentially $11 a session, $12 a session. That means like taxes and stuff. So it's $47 a month. The values, if someone's going to come in clinic and do this kind of work one-on-one, there's a different kind of fee. And there's some opportunities and gifts, materials from the book I wrote, wire down some ebook stuff, and some manuals and concepts to understand what we were talking about in deeper ways with some of the videos we were showing earlier. Dr. George, this has been, this is what we do for fun. My God, we get together and have fun and do this stuff, and then we go on vacation and have fun and do this stuff, and then we read about it and have fun and do stuff about it, And then we go and we play instruments. Yeah. Let's play some music, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Dr. Kevin. That's Dr. George. We'll see you on the other side.